the blood spatter, by the whatever blood remains behind at the crime scene. So you must take it. Then number one, you must photograph it. It must be pictured. Now, not just like close range in the blood drops. Go further away with your camera and take a picture of what's around the blood drops, and overview pictures of, let's say, the entire room, or if it's outdoors, maybe the entire area around it, like the field, let's say. Always must have a scale object. Put a ruler there. Sometimes if it's blood on a wall, you have to put a ruler vertically and horizontally. This is actually called the perimeter ruler method. So you have a scale for the horizontal and for the vertical, because you have to know the size of the blood drops. And remember the string method. We mentioned the string method. You really should be doing that also. Get the angle of the blood drops and find where the attack occurred, the source of blood occurred. And always do the sketches. You have to do the sketches. Don't forget the sketches, even though you're putting the photographs. Sketches are also very important. For example, and also make sure you take notes. For example, for the notes, if there's a breeze, you might want to mention that, because the breeze can blow blood drops in a certain direction. So these things you're not going to get from photographs, and you might not even get them from sketches, but you can. But your notes you will certainly have. So the fact you have photographs does not mean you should not be using sketches and notes. Sketches, by the way, is easier for people to see because it eliminates a lot of the unimportant stuff that photographs pick up. So even though you do have photographs, you need the sketches too. Here's a major problem that sure looks like, when I'm talking, it sure sort of sounds like, oh, no problem, put your numbers in the calculator, you get the angle, you get the source, you know exactly how many blows were based on this cast-off spatter. The fact is, it's not, the results are not precise. There is a large error, sometimes even about 37%. Like they staged crimes and they asked blood spatter analysts, blood spatter professionals to reconstruct it, and there were times they were more than a third off with their locations and suggestions of what happened. So there are courses that teach you how to be a blood spatter analyst. They take about a week. They can, about 70 hours or for the course. I'm not sure. They can cost from $200 to something like $900. You can go get certified yourself. It's the thing is that there are no the government doesn't control this as to how much you're learning even after you get the certification. In any event, be aware. Blood spatter analysis, we now understand, is not precise. It's not exact. It gives it gives very reasonable explanations and for what happened, and gives us a good idea of how to reconstruct a crime. But be aware that it's not that precise. There are things that you may think it came from a certain place. It may have came from a few feet away, or it might have, because it's not as precise as you might think, or as I'm telling you, as if you go through the course. Oh yeah, this is definitely what happened. Certainly, it's not that precise. You realize that it's off. You still get a good idea. It definitely gives you a good idea of what happened. And where the victim was, and whether there was it was by a gunshot or a pool cue, and where the person was, where the person might have crawled. But but don't think that a person says, oh, he was exactly in this place and the angle was at this exact angle. Don't believe it's exact, because mistakes were made, even though the person sounds like he has got his credentials. He sounds very impressive. He might look very impressive, but be aware. If you're ever looking at blood spatter analysis results, recognize it's not that precise. Things are off a little bit, or they can be off a little bit. And it's not always true that the blood spatter, oh yeah, that's obviously, let's say, cast-off spatter pattern. Well, maybe it's really small, so it's actually might even be some other kind. Might be some other kind, let's say a medium velocity spatter. People can make mistakes with expirated blood and high velocity blood spatter. So it's very important to get more than one person to analyze the blood spatter. If two people come with the same results, then okay, it's very trustworthy. But if you want to know exactly what happened, get more than one blood spatter analyst to give you answers. Here are two cases. The Sam Shepard case, we mentioned it a little bit. In 1954, they concluded by blood found on his watch, the blood that he was guilty. But after this, another blood spatter analyst, he's like one of the earlier ones. What was his name again? Dr. Paul Kirk. He said he looked at the blood spatter. He was more famous also. He was like known as better in the field. But Dr. Kirk, he looked at the blood and he said, "Wait a minute, this is not you are wrong. The blood on his watch was not did not come because like whatever it was. I think what they claimed was back spatter. He said it wasn't back spatter." So you had two opinions, one versus the other. They realized in the end that he was not guilty. They retried him, and he was found not guilty. Unfortunately, he had a problem with drugs, and he died 4 years later. Anyway, here's a case, kind of sad. I don't know what to do about it. Joe Bryan, he was convicted in 1985 by blood spatter analysis of killing his own wife. And the problem was, in those days, it sounded scientific, and the blood spatter analyst said, "Well, it looks like this. Here's my method. I'm taking the inverse sign," and the jury was like really impressed by the technical nature of it all and the scienciness of it all. They said, "Well, blood spatter, it's science. He must be guilty." Now people are saying it's not so simple. It's not likely he actually did kill his wife. He did go for an appeal, but that was a long time ago, and he is still in prison. They didn't overturn his case. Well, that might very well be a travesty of justice due to blood spatter analysis, and because people trusted it more than they should. That's the important part of this thing. Be aware there are error rates. It's not that precise. Sometimes problems can happen and you can convict the wrong person. One of the most important uses of blood spatter analysis, even if it is imprecise, even so, one of the most important uses is to trip up suspects in lies. If the suspect says, I was there and someone else did it, and in the middle of the room, but blood spatter analysis can actually show it could not have possibly been in the middle of a room. This way we catch people in lies. This is the most important use of blood spatter analysis. So even if it's off a little bit, we can certainly catch people in lies. So that is actually the greatest use of blood spatter analysis. It might not be that precise, but it does give a decent picture and is very often used to show that a person is lying so that you can question him more harshly and get the truth. Okay, so here's again a little bit of a summary of what we've been doing. We need to reconstruct crimes so we can find out what's happening, what happened, and therefore why the crime was done, and maybe who the criminal is, and what to do with suspects. We should know about the different kinds of blood spatter, including like impact and high velocity, medium velocity, low velocity. How to relate blood stains to the source of them using the string method, and sometimes voids tell a picture, flow patterns, how the drip patterns as the person walks or as the person's carried, how to record them as evidence, and recognize blood spatter analysis is not precise. The person might be very convincing, but don't assume it's correct to the millimeter. Recognize there is some imprecision, and sometimes people disagree about certain aspects of the blood spatter analysis. But by the way, again, it's not precise, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just isn't precise. It's useful. It is very useful, but be careful when people claim a lot of precision. For those who have the textbook and are interested in the problems that you can use as for practice, here are the problems.